The sun had risen on the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone. Now, brimstone is defined as sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven. Okay, the Lord rained sulfur and fire out of heaven, and he overthrew those cities and all the valley and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. So basically, the fire, the brimstone, the sulfur came down and took out the entire valley. Now that is a huge place. It's huge. So what took, of course, we know the kicker is Lot's wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. Once God shows us and instructs us, we can't look back. There's no looking back. We have to leave behind what he's brought us out of. We cannot look back. We cannot go back to Egypt. Lot's wife could not go back to Sodom. And there was a consequence to it. In this case, she became a pillar of salt. But the point is, once God shows us and we make a start to go his direction, we cannot look back. We put our hand to the plow, we move forward. We don't go backwards. Don't go backwards. Now, let's look at a Sumerian astronomer's observation. Okay? This is interesting. This is a clay tablet. And this clay tablet is really has puzzled scientists for years and years since they found it. They found it in an old library out of Nineveh, or that in an archaeological dig, and it's identified as a witness account of an asteroid hitting Earth. Okay, and it's suspected that it's likely the asteroid that destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Researchers who cracked the cuneiform symbols or deciphered them, okay, believe that it recorded an asteroid thought to have been more than a half a mile wide. That's a huge asteroid, okay? Now, the Sumerian astronomer in this cuneiform translation was watching the night sky and referred to the asteroid as a white stone bowl approaching, and recorded it as it vigorously swept along. Those are quotes from this cuneiform. About half the symbols on the tablet have survived, and half of those refer to the asteroid hitting the Earth. The other symbols record the positions of the clouds and the constellations at the time that this asteroid was coming in. Now, if the accuracy of the size of this thing is correct, the debris consisting of up to 2/3 of the asteroid would have been hurled back along its route, and a flash temperature of 400 degrees centigrade, that's 752 degrees Fahrenheit, would have been created, killing everything in its path, wiping everything out. Okay? Give you a little bit of visualization picture there where maybe what that astronomer was looking at when he was looking at it. Now, let's consider the Dead Sea. Remember, the Dead Sea wasn't there. It was a lush valley. Plain, they call a plain of Sodom. It was a valley in there with lush, green, like the Garden of Eden. It was described as. The shores of the Dead Sea are the lowest dry point on the surface of the earth. They're 1,378 feet below sea level, and it has a water depth of a little over 1,000 feet, which makes it the second deepest salt lake in the world. So it is, the bottom of the Dead Sea is almost 2,500 feet below sea level. Now, I put up this topography map here to give you a representation of what it looks like from the air. And now this is a drawing, but you can see the depth that this thing, if this was an asteroid that hit and cut this hole, you can see the depth that it would have made. The Dead Sea is 42 miles long, and it's 11 miles wide at its widest point. Well, you can see that valley was wide. I mean, it was huge before it turned into the Dead Sea. So there would have been a lot of production there, with the river running through it, had all the irrigation it needed. It is a huge hole. This picture is a picture of one of the shores, and it is salty. That is all salt on those rocks that are on the edge of it from the salt, from the water splashing up. You can't drown in it. It's so salty that it's denser than your body, so your body floats without you trying to make it float. Nobody drowns in the salt sea. In fact, I read several months ago they lost a child. A family was out there swimming or what have you, and a child got away from them, and they lost it. And 3 days later, they found it floating in the salt sea. It was still alive. It was dehydrated because it didn't have anything to drink, but it was still alive, still floating. Anyway, brimstone is composed about 96 to 98% sulfur, with a trace amount of magnesium, which creates a very high temperature when it burns. Okay. Now, this area inside this dotted red circle is a ball that was broken open on purpose. And these are round balls of brimstone, of sulfur, almost pure sulfur. They have been embedded in the ash and burnt area all along the Dead Sea. That's what's there. It's amazing, isn't it, how it fits. Why would there be sulfur balls embedded in ash and burnt areas at the Dead Sea? Sounds like maybe it was an asteroid. God sent fire and brimstone out of heaven to destroy them. It's interesting. Now, ash is composed of calcium sulfate and calcium carbonate, which are byproducts of burning limestone and sulfur. That's what ash comes from. So there is a high tendency here that this is likely what God used to destroy all of those people in that big area. And it made a huge hole in the earth when it did it. And nothing can grow there now. Nothing. Zero. So to finish up, in Genesis 19, and Abram went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord, and he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the valley. So he was up on a high hill. He could see the whole valley. And he looked, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like the smoke of a furnace. It was burning. The entire valley was afire. So it was that when God destroyed the cities of the valley, God remembered Abraham now, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had lived. So even the scripture, how it defines what Abraham saw, matches something that would have set the entire valley on fire and destroyed everything. 11 miles wide and 42 miles long. It's a huge hole, a huge hole. Luke, the 17th chapter, and it says, just as it was in the days of Noah, so will it be in the days of the Son of Man. They were eating and drinking and marrying and being given in marriage until the day when Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise, just as it was in the days of Lot, they were eating and drinking and buying and selling and planting and building, but on the day when Lot went out from Sodom, fire and sulfur rained from heaven and destroyed them all. The kicker is, so will it be on the day when the Son of Man is revealed. Don't be dismayed about what's going on in the world, because as it was in the days of Noah and as it was in the days of Lot, so it will be when Jesus returns. Don't be anxious. Don't be concerned. The more chaos you see, the closer it is that Jesus is coming.